I'm Matthew Sloan. Shots were heard around Shotwell Stadium as the Mustangs of Midwestern State got their engines running, defeating the Cats 35-31.
And I'm Taylor Langston. This afternoon, the Cats turned their attention to a feline fight against the Lions of Texas A&M Commerce. We've got it all right here, right now, on the Ken Collums Show. Welcome to the Ken Collums Show. We've got a lot to get to after a big homecoming game against Midwestern State. The Cats going down in a close 35-31 loss to the Mustangs of Midwestern State. Here to talk about that game is, of course, head coach Ken Collums and ACU Optimist sports writer Matthew Sloan. Coach, looking beyond the score of the game, this was one of the strongest games that you guys have played all season. Based on performance, how do you feel about it so far? Well,
based on performance, I'm pleased with the way we played. After you look at our last two games, going to Canyon and we didn't play well at all. There's no secret, and and that's going to happen to teams from time to time. Even the best teams in the country are going to go through that. The key is, how do you respond from that? And our guys responded. We tinkered with the way we practiced a little bit, and we feel like that helped. And we went out and we played well. We didn't make enough plays to win. Part of that was on us, but part of that was on Midwestern, because that's a good team. And if you were a fan, that was a great game to watch. And as a coach, it was fun to coach in, because your guys are playing well, the other guys are playing well, and it just it comes down to who makes the most plays.
Coach, you always talk about how when your offense is mixing the run and the pass, they're really hard to stop, and we got to see that this week. How do you think your offense played scoring 31 points against Midwestern?
Well, as far as the scoring, we don't ever measure ourselves on how we score, because a lot of times that is not very indicative of the quality of play as far as up front, throwing and catching, protecting. But the bottom line is, we went from playing a game where we absolutely could not run the ball to making a big emphasis on it the next week. And against Midwestern in the first half, we came out and did exactly what we wanted to do, which is have quality runs, not necessarily chunks of runs. We didn't have. I think our longest run was 15 yards maybe, but in the first half we rushed for 80 yards, and we had almost 19 minutes of possession of time, and those runs were, none of them were real gimme type runs where, hey, we flip the ball out on the edge and they miss a tackle, so we run, or a quarterback run. Those were raw bone runs where we get in run sets and we run the ball, and we were getting 5 yards a pop. And what that does for our offense is it opens up everything. It creates doubt in the defense's mind to where, hey, can we stop these guys? Because sooner or later we're going to start throwing play action and drop back a little bit. And at halftime, the other coaches are in talking about defending the run, and we're talking about, hey, let's open it up a little bit, let's throw the ball. And so everything is determined by how well we run the ball. And you're not going to run it great every game, but you got to be able to get some quality runs in there.
Well, it was like they made leaps and bounds from the West Texas A&M game the weekend before the game against Midwestern State, which was good to see. They played more like a unit than we saw against the Buffaloes. Stay with us. When we return, we'll get to more details of that game against Midwestern State. We'll be back right here on the Ken Collums Show. Welcome back to the Ken Collums Show. The Wildcats were up on the Mustangs until about a minute and a half left in the fourth quarter. Here's a recap of that game that was too close for comfort.
All right. Listen, I want you to play it like you mean it, but play it with character. All right? Do not let your actions disgrace the game of football. All right?
Charkandrick West meets a few defenders on the line, but pushes past for a short gain. The snap is a little high for Mitchell Gale, but he's able to get control of the ball and keep it long enough for a first down. A pass from Mitchell Gale to Darian Hogg puts the Cats in good enough field position for a Taylor Gabriel pass into the end zone. Jeremy Pipkin on the return for the Mustangs, staying on his feet until the kicker Spencer Covey comes in to make the stop. The Wildcats slowed down Midwestern State, but weren't able to put a stop to them. Brandon Kelsey sneaks into the end zone. Cats get the ball back and march down the field. Daryl Cantu Harkless gains some tough yards, and Taylor Gabriel with a spectacular catch, reaching up and bringing the ball down for a 50-yard reception, which led to a Charkandrick West run right up the middle for another ACU touchdown. Western State responds with a few pass plays, and before you know it, Brandon Kelsey is standing in the end zone again. His second of 3 scores on the ground, and the game is all knotted up at 14. The Wildcats would crack first, however. After a long drive, the Cats miss a field goal wide left, and the Mustangs defense finally broke serve. Midwestern State would take over and quickly flip the field with an explosive outside run before safety LB Suggs blows up wide receiver Kevin Swanson and forces a fumble that the Wildcats' Mike Wallace pounces on to get the Cats' offense back out on the field. Mitchell Gale would flip a screen out to Daryl Cantu Harkless for a few quick yards before finding Darian Hogg over the middle to gash the Mustangs secondary and set up a field goal that would give the Wildcats another lead. Ford sweeping in with an interception to give the offense a short field and a chance to stretch their lead, but a blocked field goal prevents the Cats from putting any more points up on the board on the last drive before the half. Kedrick Johnson makes it look like track down there, hurdling over an ACU defender before being brought down by a slew of Wildcats. Brandon Kelsey keeps it again for another Midwestern touchdown to put them ahead 21-17. Daryl Cantu Harkless stays alive on the run long enough to escape a few Mustangs. Add another beautiful catch by Taylor Gabriel, and the Cats have all they need to push ahead for another lead. Brandon Kelsey on another quarterback keep advancing just a few yards before the ball is knocked loose by Stephen Ford and LB Suggs. It falls into the lap of a Midwestern player and was recovered by the Mustangs. Not long after that, the Mustangs find their way into pay dirt for another Midwestern State touchdown. The defense coming in strong to contain the Midwestern State run game, at least on this possession. Midwestern State punts the ball off, and the Wildcat offense takes over on their own 1-yard line. All it takes is a quick pass downfield into the hands of Darian Hogg, and soon after that, redshirt freshman Jamie Walker. Another ACU touchdown, and the Wildcats take their final lead of the game. Brandon Kelsey scurries into the end zone with just under a minute and a half to go in the game.
Coach, this is obviously a completely different game than the last time that we played Midwestern State. It may not have been the outcome that you wanted, but there's definitely a lot of good things to take away from this game against Midwestern State. I mean, Mitchell Gale and the offense really able to move the ball down the field, stay in front of the chains, get a first down, which is good because that's something that they've struggled with a little bit, playing really good teams.
Yeah, our consistency this year has not been even close to what we're used to. This game that we played against Midwestern was a little bit more of, hey, here's our plan. It's not going to be necessarily, hey, let's try to go up and down the field on people. Hey, let's sink back a little bit. Let's just control the ball. Try to keep the ball out of their hands, which they've got a phenomenal offense and phenomenal personnel over there. And we were able to do that. And like we said earlier, it starts with running the ball. And then you look up, and Mitchell's got time to throw it. And if you give Mitchell Gale enough time to throw the ball, he's gonna cut you up.
Coach, I think everybody's been a little critical of the offensive line, but last week they came out and really handed it to Midwestern State, especially in the first half. Really got downhill, and like you said, you ran the ball really well. Could you talk a little bit about the offensive line and how well they played last week?
Well, I don't know that they necessarily handed it to anybody, but you know what? They played more like a complete offensive line should, and what we ask of our offensive linemen, it's probably more than what most people do, but they're gonna block gap schemes and zone schemes and man schemes. We did all of that in the first half, and they did it well. And what you didn't see was defensive linemen and linebackers running around in our backfield. And that's what, if you want to run the ball, you better be able to establish the line of scrimmage. You hear this all the time. Keep people out of your backfield. and then be able to make yards and just be able to make first downs. And if you're winning first down, a lot of times you're going to move the chains. A first down win for us is 4 yards or more. So that's all we try to do on first down. We're going to get 4 yards. We feel like 2nd and 6 is a pretty good situation for a team that can run, that can play action, that can drop back. So I'm very pleased with the way they played in the first half. I'm pleased with the way they played in the second half. We leaned a little bit more on the pass in the second half, and we only had probably 12 yards rushing, I think, in the second half. But they did what we asked them to do, which is, hey, let's keep the ball a little bit, run the ball, and that'll set up the other things we do. But they made a huge jump from the previous week. Part of that was we moved Josh Perez to right guard. When you have strong guard play, you tend to run the ball a little bit better. It's just this year we've had to play him at center, and that's one of the things that has taken away from our offense a little bit this season. But he's at guard. He's still at guard. Reed Ware is still our center. Colton Carnes did an admirable job at left guard, and our 2 tackles held up against some pretty good pass rushers.
Well, Brandon Kelsey was from Midwestern State, their quarterback. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's able to tuck the ball and run. He's able to get the job done in the air. He made his way into the end zone on 3 different times throughout the game. Do you think that was the best defensive performance that we could have put up against him, or do you think that he was just able to get past us because he was that good?
Well, whether it was the best, I don't know. I know our guys were lined up properly. Thor, he's the guy. He's the quarterback of that defense. He gets us lined up, gets our calls right, makes sure everybody's in the right gap. And, our guys, we did a pretty good job of compressing running lanes. The problem is when you face a running team that runs their quarterback and he has running skills, not just a guy that's fast but has running skills, an offense can always outnumber you in the run game when they're using their quarterback to run. And with Kedrick, their running back, he's as good a blocker as any running back that we'll see in our league. So they've got a nice little recipe for running the quarterback really well. And I wouldn't be surprised if he scored 3 touchdowns a game for the rest of the season, just because when they lean on something, they're going to lean on their quarterback run game. And you saw a lot of times on second down, they would run quarterback power, gap scheme, block down, kick out with an extra running back there to block. So being outnumbered is never a good situation. And how it is with option teams at times, they can get you outnumbered on the edge. Well, with a quarterback run game, inside quarterback run game, it just happens. You know what? You better be doing a good job compressing those running lanes because they've got you outnumbered.
Coach, obviously everyone remembers Nick Richardson's 6-sack performance and maybe overlooks Rob Boyd on the other side, but he's had a few really good games, batting down passes, getting in the backfield, blowing up some plays. How do you think Boyd's played the last few weeks?
I think Rob's played exceptionally well. And, he's taken a lot of snaps. So we've got a lot of guys that are taking a ton of snaps. And his body doesn't feel good. I mean, this is football. It's tough. But he's a tough kid, and he gives it everything he's got when he's out there. He's been down. We've had to drag him off the field a couple of times this game just because of injuries. But he'll always come back and always go in there and help us out. As is a lot of our defensive linemen, they're playing pretty well. As depleted at linebacker as we are because of injuries, those guys up front better be playing well, and they are.
We'll talk a little bit more about that defense and look forward to tonight's game, or this afternoon's game, I guess I should say. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff. We'll look forward to that game against Texas A&M Commerce when we get back. Stay with us right here on the Ken Collums Show. We're back here on the Ken Collums Show. While some of the ASU sports got off to a late start, they've crept their way back into playoff hopes after some solid conference play. For more, here's Brooklyn Golly and Jimmy Isbell with more ASU sports on the JMC Network Sportscast.
Welcome to the JMC Network Sportscast. I'm Brooklyn Golly.
And I'm Jimmy Isbell. After a slow start to the 2012 season, the ACU women's soccer team enters the final week of the regular season tied with the Pioneers of Dallas Baptist for 5th place in the Lone Star Conference. A pair of goals from midfielder J.C. Ferrara provided the offense, and keeper Ariel Moncure registered her 5th shutout on the season. This win over Texas Women's University helps the Cats head into their final week of the regular season, hosting Midwestern State on October 26th.
The Wildcats volleyball team once again was shut out at Moody Coliseum Tuesday evening against Texas A&M Commerce. The third straight defeat dropped ACU to 9-15 and 5-9 in conference. The team had several leads over the Lions in losses of 27-26, 28-27, a final third set score of 30-28. A kill from freshman Corey Reeder gave the Wildcats their final lead, but Commerce responded with a game-sealing kill. Sophomore Sarah Oxford led the Wildcats with 11 kills, and setter freshman Sarah Siemens recorded 35 of 40 assists and had 2 solo blocks. ACU will be back in the game mode Saturday against Incarnate Word. The match will be held at Moody Coliseum, 2 p.m. Be sure to support your Wildcats as this is their last home game for the 2012 season.
Head coach Joe Golding and the ACU men's basketball team are looking forward to making their last run in the Lone Star Conference this year. They kick off the preseason tournament with lots of young talent on the court. Stephen Woerner, a transfer from Sam Houston State, looks like one of the top big men in the league. Only one returner in Desmond Woodbury, a few transfers, and an exciting freshman guard in Parker Wentz. The Cats began their season in Waco against the Baylor Bears. The team will open regular season against Dallas Baptist in Dallas on November 10th. Join us again next week for the JMC Network Sportscast. I'm Jimmy Isbell.
And I'm Brookley Golly. See you again next week.
Joining me now on set is junior linebacker Thor Woerner. Thor, welcome to the set.
Thank you.
And I can honestly say that I have never met someone else with the name Thor. It's a little bit intimidating, I'll be honest. Your presence on the field is just as intimidating as your name. You're a huge playmaker. You're reliable. You're consistent. Game day rolls around for you. Saturday's here. What is your mindset going into the game?
You know, I've been playing a lot of football, so I don't usually get the butterflies anymore. It's a game that I love to play, so I'm happy. I enjoy being out there and it's fun to me.
Yeah, well, you've been playing football for a long time. You used to be a quarterback in high school. How does having that training to have an offensive mind, to sort of be a former offensive player, how does that help you be able to read the ball and become a better defensive player?
Well, it started a little before that, being a coach's kid, but playing offense, being a quarterback, I understand the game pretty well, I feel like, and just seeing it from the defensive side and knowing what the offenses are trying to do with the ball helps me get in the right spot a little better.
Well, you're the only junior captain that's out there, so you've got a little bit of an interesting role. You're kind of trying to, spur along the older guys. You're younger. Is there any added pressure to that, kind of taking on a new, completely different role than some of the other juniors that you're playing alongside?
No, not at all. And it's been an honor that the coaching staff has blessed me with that. And but once you're on the field, there is no distinction. We're all one. And
well, we can't have you on set and not ask about it. Injuries have just really plagued the defense this year. It's unfortunate to lose the amount of guys that you guys have from a whole team throughout an entire season, but to have it be at one particular position on the field, at the linebacker position, you've got to be picking up a lot of slack. Is there any added pressure that you're feeling because of that and the lack of depth that you guys have had over the past few weeks?
No, we've been pretty snake bit, but it shows there's a lot of guys that have stepped up, some younger guys, and then some older guys that have been bouncing around, like Justin, and it shows the resiliency of the team, basically, and of our group and individual.
Well, as a player, returning from last year's team, you've got not only a new head coach, you've got a lot of new different guys. You've got a new special teams coordinator. You've got a new linebackers coach, defensive coordinator. What does that transition sort of looks like for you coming from, a last year's team that looks significantly different than this year's team?
Well, the game, it's still the game. There's just minute changes. I've actually enjoyed having another big boy in front of me. It's helped me out tremendously. I think the transitions have been extremely smooth, and everybody enjoys it.
Well, looking ahead to this Commerce game this afternoon, what does it feel like for you guys? You're coming off 2 conference losses. You've got to be feeling a little bit of that fire, that hunger to win tonight. Are you feeling a little bit of nerves going into it?
No. We've talked about it. You got to shake it off and take a step. So that's kind of what we're doing. It's another game. You can't underestimate anybody in the Lone Star Conference. We've found that out the hard way. But, it's another game. We got to put on the pads and go play again. That's what we're ready to do.
All right, well, we're certainly looking forward to that game. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk to Coach Collums about the game against Commerce later on tonight. Stay right here on the Ken Collums Show. Welcome back to the Ken Collums Show. As ACU looks to this Texas A&M Commerce game, there are more LSC conference teams that will be facing off later tonight. Eastern New Mexico and Midwestern State going up against each other. Angelo State and Texas A&M Kingsville, Tarleton and Incarnate Word, and West Texas A&M with a non-conference game against West Georgia. Coach, you're looking at this Texas A&M Commerce team. You may see a team that's 1-6 right now in conference play, but it's really easy for a team that's kind of on the back burner of everybody's mind to sort of creep in. How do you stay focused?
Well, I think the number one thing, regardless of who we're playing, is to handle our business. That's what this team has learned, and that's what we're continuing to learn. Is if we're going to beat anybody, we've got to practice well, we've got to plan well, we've got to give good effort, and we got to improve, continue to improve, and that's what we're doing. We're you know, last week we started going a little bit more against each other, offense versus defense, not necessarily to beat each other up, but just to feel a little bit more high tempo practice, because when your numbers are down, when people start getting hurt, sometimes you don't have quality practice people. And so we practiced more against each other. I think it helped us last week. So we've done even more of that this week. So it ought to help our tempo. It ought to help our run game, and it ought to help our defense. Now, Commerce is they won one game, and they hadn't won many the last several years. But I know this. Guy Morris is a good coach. They've got a good staff, and they know what they're doing. And their guys they're not a one-win team. When you look at them play, they've played some really good games and just not won. As if we've lost some close games, they have too. They played a really good game against Angelo State. Played Angelo better than we played Angelo. So if we're not sharp, things will get frustrating for us. And but I think if we continue to practice well as we have throughout the week, I think we should be fine. Go in and protect the ball and do the things we should do.
Coach, Commerce has a linebacker, Danny Mason, already has 75 tackles. And that Commerce defense, maybe they're 1-6, but they're pretty good, especially in the front seven. How are you going to contain that front seven, especially Danny Mason?
Well, Danny's a good player, but a bigger concern is those two guys he's got in front of him. They got two defensive linemen that can rush the passer. I don't know that they're the best pass rushers in our league, but they're in the upper tier of pass rushers that we've seen all year. WT had a couple of good ones. Tarleton had a good one. Kingsville had one. But these two guys rank up there with them. So we've got to be sharp in our pass protection. We've got to be sharp in our run game, so we can get to their linebackers. But they're a very capable defense. They don't do anything that's unsound. They give you different blitzes from the field, from the boundary. They mix their coverages up well, and they should. We better be sharp.
Well, you're going up against another really strong quarterback on his feet. He's got Derek Davis, the Commerce quarterback. He's got more rushing touchdowns than anybody else on the team. What's going to have to click for your defense in order to sort of bottle him up?
Well, with a guy like Derek, they're pretty wide open in their formations, very similar to Kingsville. They'll run the ball, but he will pull it and run and make yards. And against teams like that, they're going to make yards. They're going to make first downs. Our key is we got to keep them out of the end zone, and that's the number one goal. If Coach Doolin was in here, he'd be like, well, they're going to make yards, and that's fine, but I'm going to keep them out of the end zone. And I'm like, hey, I'm in on that. Let's do that. So with a guy like Derek, he's very capable at throwing the ball. But he will run the ball. And at certain times when they get into the red zone, it turns into option defense in that, hey, if somebody's got the quarterback, they better tackle him and get him on the ground or he's going to score.
Coach, Mitchell Gale had maybe his best game of the year last week, and now he's going up against a tough defense. I know you and Mitchell are really close. What would it mean to you and to him personally to really finish the season with three more good quality games?
Oh, I would love that, and Mitchell deserves that. But a lot of times, as we've learned in life and in football, you don't get what you deserve, and sometimes that's really good, and sometimes it's not. But Mitchell is a quality player. I mean, he's awesome, huge heart, probably the biggest heart I've ever coached. But we've got a lot of good guys on our team. I would love for him to finish this thing out with 3 wins, and if we can keep him on his feet, I feel pretty sure we'll do that.
ACU Sports will be bringing you the game live on Mix 92.5. Kickoff is this afternoon at 2 o'clock. The pregame show starts at 1:30. Lance Fleming and Grant Boone will be bringing you that for the coach Ken Collums and Matthew Sloan. I'm Taylor Langston. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week on the Ken Collums Show.